Welcome back to the vlog. Thanks for joining us today. Before we get going, I just want to say that I got feedback from most of you guys that really enjoy the vlog, and I got an interesting one just the other day. A player who's taking his game to the next level, and he started off by buying a good book and by getting a Mastiff. This is Harley, and you can see that there's a book there by Ed Miller called The Course. It's a very good read. He's studying up to be the next generation of poker coaching. All right, let's roll that intro. We're back at Capital Casino, playing in the 1-3 game, buying for $500. This week we're doing something a little bit different. It was pretty card dead all week long, so I decided to combine all 3 days into one timeline. So the aggregate total up on the left-hand side of your screen will actually be for the week. The first 2 hours of the session I haven't been able to get past the flop. I would call with good hands, miss the flop completely, too much action, I would fold. Here we have a $6 straddle. I'm on the button. I call for the $6 along with a couple other people. It comes back around to the initial straddler who makes it 40. He has a deep stack and so does the player on my right. So I figure this is a great opportunity to go set mining with my pair of deuces. The other players fold out, so it's just going to be 3 of us seeing this flop. Well, the flop does not come out exactly the way we were hoping. It comes Queen 9-5 with 2 clubs. Absolutely nothing for me. Looks like I missed another one. The first bettor checks. Next player thinks for a little bit before he decides to check. And now it's, do I try to steal or do I just check it back and give up? Well, I'm just going to check it back. I don't think it's worth trying to steal. And we get a 2 of clubs on the turn. What a great card. Don't think anyone has a flush. I figure they would bet their flush draw. First player checks. Player to my right also checks. So what pricing do I want to use? I decided to make it $95. This is a good amount. Should make it difficult for someone to call with a lone club. Maybe if they had a pair in the flush draw. I mean, it doesn't look like my hand is too strong, right? First player ends up folding out, and now it's back to the player to my right, who thinks again for a while and decides to finally put in the call. So at this point, I'm putting him on the hand like maybe a weak pair, maybe a 9. I doubt he has a queen. He probably has a flush draw. River card comes as the 9 of hearts. Perfect card. Makes me a full house. If he had a 9, he now made trips. He does get a bet ready, and he comes out with $155. As I said, this looks like a 9 to me. Can I get a little extra value off of him? Perhaps. I have about $425 more after I put in the call. So that'll bring the pot total up to about $600 in a $425 jam. I think the only move really is just to go ahead and ship it in here. So after some thought, I go ahead and I move all in. And he doesn't fold right away. He kind of thinks about it and asks how much I had. So I kind of counted out for him. Yeah, I think he has something more than just a 9 now. I think maybe he was slow playing something. Maybe he was slow playing a flush. He says, I don't think I can fold this. So he goes, yeah, I call. And he tosses a chip in. I show him my pocket deuces. And he indeed slow played the nut flush. Wow, I sure got lucky on this one. After 2 hours and 15 minutes, I win my first pot. Well, this is probably the most interesting hand of the week. There's a new player that just sat down who's very capable, and I've played quite a few big hands with him, and he always seems to get the better of me. But in the process, I did pick up on a little something, and I can tell when he has a very, very strong hand, no matter what his initial raise sizing is. Here he opens for 15. I got ace king. Normally this is a slam jam 3-bet, but with him, with my read, I'm just calling, and I'm going to play this very cautiously. To tell you the truth, I even thought about folding this. Anyway, three of us are going to end up going to a flop. The hand range I put them on are queens plus, maybe ace king. Flop comes ace 9 5. Perfect flop for my hand. He ends up checking. So once he checks, I'm pretty sure he doesn't have ace king. He would definitely want to c-bet that, and puts him more on the range of kings and queens. So the question is, how do I get value out of such a hand? He checks. If I fire, and if he had kings or queens, he probably wouldn't be calling. It's a very dry board. So with such a dry board, and knowing that either way, way ahead of him, let's face it, I'm probably just way, way ahead of him. So I decided to check it, and the player behind me also puts in the check. So we're going to see a turn card, which comes out the 8 of hearts. It does put out a possible straight, but other than that, it's a pretty safe card. He now decides to bet for $40, something someone might do with, say, kings or queens. Doesn't want anyone to get in there. I decided I'm just going to call. I'm just going to go for 2 streets of value. The player behind me calls, and the river card comes as a 9 of hearts. Pretty safe card again. He decides to check. He would definitely check his queens and kings in this spot, so I feel I need to go for some value. The player behind me would have bet any ace on the flop and possibly any 9, so I don't think he has a 9 behind me. I think he just has a missed draw. So now it's about sizing. What would he pay off in this spot? I decided to settle on a bet size of $75. I figured this might look like I'm trying to steal it if I have a missed draw, since there are some missed draws out there. It could also look like I have a 9. So right now, it's kind of like he has a bluff catcher. If he thinks I might be fooling around and trying to take this down without a 9, he will call. And if he has, if he thinks I have a 9, he might fold. So I figure there's probably about a 50-50 chance I'll get a crying call out of him and make another $75. And after some thought, he decides that he's going to make it $300. Now, what could this mean? It could mean a couple things. Could he be turning his hand into a bluff? Is he capable of that? Definitely. He's a good, solid player. But the question is, really, would he? If you think about the line I took, my hand really looks like a 9. I check the flop when it comes ace high. Turn card is smaller than the 9. He bets, I call. I could easily have a hand like 9-8 of clubs, 9-8 of spades. He checks the river and I bet, and now he check raises me to 300. It's a very strong line he's taking. He's basically saying that he's not afraid of me having a 9. And there's really only 2 hands that I can come up with that he's really not afraid of me having a 9. Either he has a hand like pocket 9s, or he has a hand like pocket aces. Nothing else makes sense, because I could easily have 9-8 suited here and have a full house. So I go in the tank for a while, and I just want to make sure. I look for some other reads. I have another read that he is strong. I can't really go into discussion about it because, as I said, I play against this person quite a bit, and he is very competent, and I'm going to keep every edge I might have a little bit of a secret. But after some time, I realized that he just has to have it here. There's no real bluffs that he would do in this spot. He wouldn't turn his hand into a bluff in this spot. He has to have either pocket 9s or pocket aces. And here's the little table talk that came at the end of this hand. I think I have to lay down a really big hand.
How long has she been up?
What were you gonna say? You lay down on the hand.
Huh?
What are you gonna say on TV?
I'm gonna say I'm folding a big hand because I think I'm beat.
9 on the river again.
I got to fold. If you want to embarrass me by showing the bluff, you can do it.
I don't want to be in the
Show.
I don't want to be the boss.
But show for the vlog is gonna be good.
Yeah.
I don't want to be in the boss.
He can't show the bluff because there is no bluff.
Yes.
While we're at the table, he never did say what he had. But the following day, we did have a little conversation. I told him that I had ace king there, and he did indeed say that he did have pocket aces, and I don't doubt it for a minute. So if I didn't have that initial read, I could have really lost a big pot here. You know, 3-betting pre-flop, some big amounts of money would have got in, and I would have been forced to pay him off. We played for another half hour or so. Nothing too exciting had happened. So we come back the next day, and the first hand we get involved in, we have 10-9 suited from middle position. There were 2 limpers in front of me. I decided to raise to $20. End up getting a call from a player behind me, and then from the small blind and the original limper. So we're going to end up going 4 ways to this flop with $84 in the pot. Flop comes out 5-3 deuce with 2 hearts. Absolutely nothing for me. First 2 players check. Here, I'm not going to go ahead and c-bet into 3 opponents when I have absolutely no equity whatsoever. It gets checked around. Turn card comes is a 9 of spades, puts a second flush draw out. First player checks. Player to my right ends up betting for $25. This bet seems a little weak and timid to me, maybe like someone with a draw of some sort, or maybe a weak 9. Here I decided to implement a move I used to use a lot in Limit Hold'em. It's the raise for the showdown. I want to put in a raise here, trying to isolate this player, not giving anyone behind me a good price to take one off. Might even get a fold from someone with a hand like Jack 9. Maybe they just turned a flush draw and they don't want to pay the extra money for the draw. And my intention is just to check it down unless I really improve by catching, say, a 10 or a 9. The other 2 players end up folding out, and it's back to the original bettor. He does decide to make the call, and just the 2 of us going to see the river. River card comes is a jack of spades. It does complete the obvious flush draw. It delivers an overcard. He checks. I immediately check it back. Just go into showdown. He turns over pocket 4s. I turn over my 9. We take it down. Well, the next hand we find ourselves in, we're in the big blind with 2 jacks. Of course, there are a few limpers. I am going to raise. I make it $20 more, and we get a bunch of limpers to come along. So we're going 4 ways to this flop with $95 in the center. Flop comes out Queen 10-8 with 2 diamonds. Not the greatest flop in the world, but I think I was going to probably call a bet. So in that case, I might as well make a bet. So I put out a continuation bet, get called by the first limper. He has a very short stack. If he had a queen, I think he would just put it all in there. So I don't think he has a queen. So the 2 of us are going to end up going to a turn card, which is the ace of diamonds. It does put out the flush. As I said, he has a short stack. Ace is better for my range. I don't think he has a queen. I shove in, he folds, and we win a small one. I'm under the gun with king jack suited, open for a raise to 15. I get a call from the player on my left, and then a raise to 45. Player who raised has a very tight range, probably has a very strong hand, but with king jack suited, and for the price of $30 more, I don't think I can let it go. So I'm going to go ahead and put in the call for the extra $30, and so does the player to my direct left. So 3 of us are going to head towards this flop, and we got $139 in the center. Flop comes out ace high, 1 spade. Not the greatest flop. I'm just going to give up here. I check, player to my left checks, and then the initial raise, 3-bettor checks also. He looks like he was very disappointed, like he had an overpair and now there's an ace on board. So when the 10 comes on the turn, I decide to turn my hand into a bluff. I'm going to go ahead and barrel this 2 times if he calls and see if I can get him off. I make it $75. It's to the player on my left now, who thinks for a very long time and jams. Anyway, yeah, he looked like he either slow played something or made something on the turn. The other player folds out. I kind of contemplated for a second to see what the chances he's doing this with some sort of flush draw like Queen Jack of clubs. I did consider making a call, but it's just way too loose. He did later on tell me he had pocket 10s. An early player limps in. I look down at 2 7s from the low jack, decide to raise to 20. Everyone folds out, and except for when it comes back to the original limper, he does put in the call, and we're headed off heads up to a flop that comes Queen 5 deuce with 2 spades. I do not have any spades, and I have just a pair of 7s. I expect my opponent to check, but he fires into me. I kind of feel like he's just kind of stabbing at it with maybe a weak queen, say Queen Jack, Queen 10. And I decided I'm just going to make a little stand here, put in a raise, and see where he's at. So I make it 85. If he has a weak queen, he's going to have to worry about protecting his stack. He is rather deep, and so am I. So I think he'll let all his mediocre queens go, and that's what he does. He ends up folding, and we take down a small pot. With 1 limp in front of us, we raise to $20 from the middle position with ace king suited. End up getting 3 callers for the $20. So I headed off to a flop with $80 in the center. Flop comes out 10-8-7, 1 club. Not a good flop for ace king. Hits our opponent's range very hard and misses ours completely. At this point, I'm just going to check it back and see what happens on the turn. Turn card's interesting. It's a 6 of clubs, so we pick up the nut flush draw. First 2 players end up checking. Player to my right now bets for $60. Yeah, we got the nut flush draw, but he could already have a straight, and we have 2 players that could easily be check raising with something stronger. 1 player does put in the call, so we're going to get to see a river of an 8 of spades, so we would have missed anyway. It gets checked to the player who just rolls over 8-9 of clubs, so he did turn the straight and had some flush blockers. Well, it's a new day, but same old stuff. It's been an hour and a half, and I haven't won a pot yet. Here I got king 9 of hearts, a little bit on the loose side. I ended up raising to 20, get 2 callers. Flop comes out king high, but all spades. It was checked to me. I decided to continue. Player to my left makes a fairly quick call, and the other player ends up folding out. So I think a 9 is not a great kicker. The king might be good. The turn card is a jack of clubs. No flush card gets there. I think this doesn't change much. If I was ahead before, I'm ahead now. I put out a small bet, and he quickly folds. Still card dead, but these next hands all happened in a series. I pick up 6-7 suited on the button, put in a large raise to $25, and everyone fold. The very next hand, I have Queen 8 suited in the cutoff, open for a raise. I get 3-bet from the player in the small blind who seems to be like a competent player. He knows I'm probably doing this with a wider range, so I go ahead and call, defend with my Queen 8 suited. 2 of us are headed off to a flop. Flop is not the greatest, but king 10-9 with a rainbow, he checks. When he checks, I think he has a lot of ace highs that miss. I think he has a lot of smaller pairs that are afraid of the overcards. So I continue, and he quickly folds, so we get 1 through. The very next hand, I have ace 9 suited. There is 1 limper. I ended up raising. He ended up calling. Flop comes out with a bunch of little cards. So when the cards come small, I'm emboldened to go ahead and bet. He does end up folding quickly, and we take another small pot down. Well, we're definitely using our table image at this point. Here again, very next hand, I have king jack suited. There was a limper in front. I end up raising. I get called in 2 spots, including the small blind. Flop comes out, jack high. Both players check. I'm going to go ahead and fire again, and they both end up folding. So I'm kind of steamrolling the table at this point. Definitely had better than average hands. And then I pick up pocket aces. Open for a raise to 15. I think the table's getting a little tired of me winning all these hands without a showdown. Get a few callers, and then the player in the big blind decides to make it $65. How sweet it is. Definitely going to be putting in a raise here. Trying to figure out the sizing. He has about another $220 left behind. So I don't want to just shove. He might fold pocket tens or pocket jacks, but I do want to put in a raise to eliminate some of the other players. So I make it 165. A little bit on the small side, but I'm okay with that. None of the stacks I'm up against are very deep. It's folded back around to the player in the small blind who has a very short stack, a little over $50. He's just going to get it in there and hope for the best. The player in the big blind kind of thinks for a little bit. I see he's a little bit apprehensive. I'm putting him on hands like jacks, tens, maybe nines, but he does end up making the call. So with 3 players, one of them who is all in, we're going to go see a flop. The dealer figures out the main and the side pot. Flop comes out queen, queen, 3, 2 diamonds. The big blind insta jams for his remaining stack of $120. As I said, most likely he's doing this with pocket jacks, tens, nines. If he flop 4 queens, would he really jam like that? Probably not. I put in the quick call, and we see a turn card of a king of hearts and a river card of a 6 of clubs. He turns over pocket jacks. I tell him I have aces and reach back to turn them over. The player in the small blind did have queen jack suited, so he wins the main pot with his 3 queens, and we end up getting the side. Still not a bad result. And for our final hand of the day, a player opens for $8, gets called in 2 spots. I'm in the big blind with 8-7 suited, put in the call for the $8, and we're going to have 4 players go see a flop, which comes out gin, 6-5-4 with 2 hearts. So we flop this straight, great flop. I'm going to check it over to the initial aggressor, who puts out a bet for $23. The next player puts in a very quick call, and the player folds out, and it's back to me. Well, there's 2 options. I can either flat call here and hope that the player will keep on continuing, or I can put in a raise and try to get some value. Since there's a flush draw out there, I think the best course of action is just to go ahead and put in a raise here. If I'm up against a flush draw, I don't want to give them any kind of cheap draw at it. And if I'm up against something like just overcards, I'm probably not going to get too much action on the turn or the river. So I make it $70. Goes back to the initial raiser. He thinks for a brief minute before deciding to let his hand go. I would be doing this also with hands like a pair and a straight draw, or maybe a pair and a flush draw. So if I'm going to be making moves with pairs and draws, I'm definitely going to be making a move when I have the nuts. Well, they both ended up folding, so no extra value for us. Did end up playing for about 10 hours or so this week. Had a profit, a little over $800. I'm happy about that. I was really, really card dead all week long. I usually like to do a vlog about a day and then throw in some bonus hands, but there was not enough material for any one day. Anyway, I hope you appreciate the new format and having the running total going on the top. And thank you for watching. Love to get your ideas on some of the hands I played. If you just want to leave a message down in the comments, I try to get back to all of them. And how about that Harley? Cute, cute pup. Looks like Zeus has a new challenger in the future. Thanks again for all your support, and until next time, good luck at the tables.